恭请大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，殊真无生。Build the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoya halahati sanmiao sanputo 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受者，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitofo. Welcome back. This is lecture number 163. If you hear me breathing, I'm sorry if you can hear me breathing, because I find that if I breathe through my nose like this, I will cough less. Okay, maybe not just now, but usually if I breathe through my nose, I will my throat doesn't get so irritated. Except that you will hear me breathe through my nose. So I apologize in advance. Okay, today, what we're going to do is we are going to continue our understanding of Mahayana Sutras, because we are that section in the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra that tells people what you need to do if you want to get certain benefits or responses. And why is this important? Well, because sometimes the Mahayana Sutras, the language that is used can be very simple and straightforward. And then the how you say, the practice is seems very simple and straightforward. And then after the practice, there's a whole list of benefits that are associated with the practice. And if you take it at face value, it kind of, at least for me, my experience in taking it at face value or seeing other people take it at face value is that it seems to make the Dharma seem very miraculous. You know, like all you need to do is just put your palms together and pray and you get all these benefits. Or it brings an element, or it encourages an perspective of superstition towards the Dharma instead of cause and effect. Cause and effect is something you can explain. But superstition is based on whether you're sincere enough or whether you do something right. Like if you recite and you get all the words correct, you know, that's superstition. Superstition is sometimes beyond your control. You know, you have to, the efficacy lies in the rituals and the ceremonies rather than in the inner transformation. And if you are also like me, sometimes, you know, when I remember going to CDTB, reading, knowing about the Earth Store Sutra and wanting the benefits from the Earth Store Sutra, one of them, I believe, okay, obviously it didn't work because I think one of the benefits was having a good memory. If you do something, the benefit is you will be able to memorize all the teachings. And the fact that I can't even remember, excuse me, and the fact that I can't even remember what it was tells you that I wasn't very successful. But I tried because I followed the instructions or the guidance. You know, I tried my best to follow. But at that time, I didn't know what it really meant, you know. So sometimes you try it and then you don't get the response, and maybe there's some doubt, you know, and the doubt is either in the sutra or in yourself. But the sixth Petra said, the meaning of the sutra is clear. It is only we who are confused. So it's not the fault of the sutras. It's because we don't understand what the sutras mean. Okay? All right. Having said that, let me get the slides. Last week, we looked at what it meant to make images of Buddhas. Okay, we got that done already. Now, before we continue, today we're going to talk about incense, at least in the beginning. Does anyone have any questions? No one? If you ask questions, you give me a chance to rest my throat. No, not even that? Okay. Well, if you do, you can always, if you don't want to unmute your microphone, you can type it into the chat box. Okay, now, let's see what Bodhidharma has to say about incense. For those of you who don't know, Bodhidharma was the number 26 or 28 Patriarch of India, and then he went to China and he became the first Patriarch of Chinese Buddhism in China. So he says, burning incense does not mean ordinary material incense, but the incense of the intangible Dharma, which drives away filth, ignorance, and evil deeds with its perfume. Now, this is very important because a lot of Mahayana sutras always talk about making offerings of incense, and then different kinds of incense, perfume, powdered incense, sing in water incense as a kind of wood that's so dense that it doesn't float, it sinks, and then it talks about clouds of incense. And I always thought incense means, incense you buy from a shop. But Bodhidharma says no. And he says there are 5 kinds of Dharma incense. Number 1 is the incense of morality, which means our character, that our virtue, says, which means renouncing evil and cultivating virtue. Okay, so that's the first meaning of incense. Second is the incense of meditation. That means you quiet the mind and try to understand the mind. Why is that important? Well, because Shufu, When he went to the US, he said, we shouldn't call it Buddhism, because when you have a label on something like Buddhism, people will interpret that word according to their preconceived notions. So when you say, I'm a Buddhist, someone who is very familiar with Tibetan Buddhists will see it from that perspective. Someone who's very familiar with Japanese Buddhism will see it from their perspective. And then they will think that they know what you're about. That's normal. That's how people's minds work. So Shufu, when he went to America, he saw it as a chance to begin anew, just like how Bodhidharma did and the sixth patriarch did. You know what Shufu said? Shufu says, you should call it study of the mind. Okay, Shufu says, don't call it Buddhism, you should call it study of the mind. Now, so number 2, the incense of meditation. What is meditation? Studying the mind, which means deeply believing in the Mahayana with unwavering resolve. All right, now number 3. Excuse me. Third is the incense of wisdom, which means contemplating the body and mind inside and out. Fourth is the incense of liberation, which means severing the bonds of ignorance. And number 5 is the incense of perfect knowledge, which means being always aware and nowhere obstructed. So what it is precepts, samadhi, and wisdom. Okay, that is called the 3 teachings. And then Bodhidharma says, these 5 are the most precious kinds of incense and far superior to anything the world has to offer. All right? It says, when the Buddha was in this world, or in the world, he told his disciples to light such precious incense with a fire of awareness as an offering to the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Okay, so even the fire is a metaphor for our mindfulness. And then Bodhidharma says, but people today don't understand the Tathagata's real meaning. They use an ordinary flame, from your lighter, from matchsticks, to light material incense of sandalwood, of frankincense, and pray for some future blessing that never comes. All right? Now, if you do not know this principle, okay, then you are like many people who come to the temple, or if you go to a Taoist temple, they sometimes think the more incense they offer, the better it is. Or when they come to the Buddha hall, if they don't do it with incense, if they don't offer incense, they feel that there's something wrong. Why? Because through culture, we've been conditioned to, it's a custom. We've been conditioned that when you come in front of the Buddha or to any of the deities or the gods, you need to have incense. If not, you are not. There's something wrong. There's something missing. But that's all they know. They don't know what incense represents. They don't understand the principle behind what they're doing. But it's been ingrained so deep in their psyche that you need to have incense. If you don't have incense, you're doing it wrong. Okay? So for some of them, the more the incense, the better, or the more expensive the incense, the better, or the larger the incense, the more blessings that you can get. So Miss Yap is proposing that get someone to read and I explain so that it will ease my throat. Thank you. I think unless there's someone who wants to volunteer, I will just continue reading because I guess it's easier. And I only cough when I talk. For most of the day, I think apart from lunchtime, I don't really talk at all. So and I'm also the proctor or the Weno behind the microphone for the morning ceremonies, evening ceremonies, and the meal offering. So during those 2.5 hours, I cough a lot. But other than that, yeah, I don't cough because I'm not talking. Okay, anyway. Now, so if people are not clear on the principle of incense, then they think that the efficacy lies in the incense. So, like I said, the bigger the incense or the high quality the incense, then they feel that their response will be, or their sincerity is stronger. But then it wouldn't make sense, because what would happen if you are poor? Does that mean that poor people are excluded from creating blessings or asking for help, and only rich people who usually don't need that as much help as poor people are in a position, right? So incense again is a symbol of our virtue in our conduct, in how we regard ourselves and others. Okay, hold on, just let me type something before I forget my notes. Oh, what did I do? Oh, no, not yet. Okay, hold on. I need to type something down, because if not, I'm going to forget. So give me one moment. So why do we offer incense? Because it's fragrant. Okay, we offer incense because of its fragrance. But if you go to any okay, let me finish that fragrance thought first. So you know how in language we use metaphors, and when we say someone is in Hokkien we say chao sim. Chao sim literally means smelly heart in English. It doesn't mean they have a heart that's smelly. It just means they have bad conduct, or evil conduct. Or sim, black heart means evil conduct, and you don't want to be near these people. But for someone who has virtue, it is said that their fragrance goes against the wind. What does that mean? Well, for gods in the heavens, humans smell really bad, just like how animals smell really bad to humans. If you've been to a zoo, you've been to a farm, you've been to anywhere there's animals, they smell really bad. People with pets, you have to bathe the pets pretty often so that they don't stink up the whole house. So for gods, humans smell really bad, and generally gods avoid humans. They don't want to be around humans. But for eminent monks or people with very good conduct, virtue, the gods like to be with them. And then so that's why they say their fragrance goes against the wind, because the fragrance comes from their conduct, from their virtue. Okay, so in Buddhism, if you go to proper Buddhist temples, you will, most of the time, like most of our DRBA branches, you're not even allowed to bring incense into the Buddha hall. If you insist on lighting incense, you do it outside, and then there's a incense incenser for you outside where you can put your incense. You're not allowed to bring it into the Buddha hall at all at CDTB, not at Berkeley Monastery. I'm not sure if all the monasteries, but most of our branches that I've been to, you're not allowed to bring lighted incense into the Buddha hall. And that's why if you come for a ceremony in our DRBA branches or in proper Buddhist temples, not all, okay, but most, only the Dharma host offers incense during the ceremony on behalf of everyone else. It's symbolic. If incense was so important, everyone would have to light incense, but it's just a symbolic gesture. So what do? We put our palms together. And what do we offer? We offer up our conduct. That's what we offer. So you can buy the most expensive incense in the world, the most rare, special, most fragrant incense in the world, but if you have bad conduct, if you have a smelly heart and a black heart, you have nothing to offer at all. Whatever incense you light, that's not going to matter. That incense, fragrance of the incense is not going to cover up how smelly your character is. Okay? All right, now, Ms. Hub says, what is your opinion of the latest trend of having electric light incense? I don't think, is there electric light incense? is electric lights, right? Lamp, like oil lamp and electric lights. But is there such a thing as electric incense?
Yes, Pastor. Now they have the kind of incense that you use electric and you don't need to burn the joss stick.
So you mean you does it heat up the incense and there's no smoke? Or
Yeah, it's
how does
just
it work?
like electric lamp, but it's lit up. It's in the form of an incense.
Oh, so it's just a
It's
light.
lit up and it run. Yeah, you
Oh,
only see
okay.
the light. Yeah, it's the
Okay.
incense. It
Okay.
represents
So
the incense.
all right. So if you want to keep with the spirit of incense, because incense is supposed to be fragrant, to represent character, your character, that's based on virtue. So if it's just light, there's another metaphor for lights or lamps in Buddhism, and that is the lighting of wisdom. So if for someone who how to say it, for example, in Berkeley at one time we were considering offering essential oils instead of incense, because some people are allergic to the smoke, especially if it's winter time and all the windows are closed because it's very cold outside and you light incense. Some people may find it very uncomfortable. Then at one time we were contemplating maybe offering essential oils instead, because there's still fragrance that you offer. Yeah. So I would say that instead of light, Miss Lim says offering of light, not incense. Yeah. Maybe that is more on the electric, is more on the light offering rather than offering of incense. You can substitute it with essential oils, okay? But you have, just as long as you're clear on the principle. Anyone else? Okay, now moving on. Shifu in our Medicine Master Buddha Sutra says, we make such offerings only because we have no other way of showing our sincerity. When we make offerings, we should not be like those superstitious people who light big handfuls of joss sticks in front of the Buddha. We should light no more than 3 sticks of incense as an offering to the Buddha, with perhaps 1 more stick for the Dharma protecting spirits, making 4 sticks in all. Usually, 1 stick of incense is enough. If you are sincere, the Bodhisattvas will protect you even if you don't offer incense. Alright? You see that? If you are sincere, the Bodhisattvas will protect you even if you don't offer incense. The Buddhas will be happy as long as you are mindful of the Triple Jewel and recite the sutras. You don't need to light incense to make them happy. Okay? So what is being superstitious? Being superstitious means that you have the mistaken view that the efficacy lies in the offering of the incense or in its physical form or in the ceremony itself. Okay, so let me see. Okay, hold on. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, I just got a message. I thought maybe some you all couldn't hear me. Okay. So think of incense, it's just a symbol. All right, it's like you buy flowers for someone. Flowers don't last, okay? They are useless. You cannot eat it. It doesn't make you rich, it doesn't last very long. But there's meaning in the offering of flowers, okay? So it's the same, incense. There's meaning in offering of incense, but the efficacy is not in the incense itself, all right? So we shouldn't get confused. All right, now speaking of flowers, all right, next one is flowers. Why? Because okay, let me get the slide of the sutra to refresh our memory. Okay, there you go. If you look at the bottom, so okay, you look at the first paragraph, the words in orange, we covered that last week, making an image of the Buddha, of Medicine Master Buddha. Now we are on the second paragraph says, then they should strew all kinds of flowers, burn different incenses, and adorn the place with a variety of banners and streamers. So that's where we are now. Okay, so we are going to talk about flowers. Okay, slide. All right. Now, coming back to Bodhidharma, because Bodhidharma, when he went to China, he found that there were a lot of Buddhist practices going on, but everyone was attached to the form of the practice and not understanding the principle behind the practice. So it's like when you come to a temple and you see monks and nuns saying, oh, you have to do things a certain way or you're wrong. But that's, for someone to say that you have to do it a certain way or you're wrong, is not really a Buddhist principle, because we shall come to that when we talk about precepts later. Because precepts depend on intention. Why the Buddha taught us in precepts or karma is because the Buddha wanted us to understand the role of intention. And the role of intention is you can't see someone. You have two people doing the same thing but with two different intentions. So if you want to judge someone on the surface, that's not right. That's not proper. If someone were to judge you based on what you do instead of how your intention behind what you do, you will realize very, very quickly that it's very, very unfair because they don't know the whole picture. Okay, now coming to flowers, what is the full picture of flowers? Bodhidharma says, for scattering flowers, the same principle as incense holds true. This refers to speaking the Dharma, scattering flowers of virtue in order to benefit others and glorify the real self, the true self. In other words, our Buddha nature. These flowers of virtue are those praised by the Buddha. They last forever and never fade, unlike real flowers. Okay, and whoever scatters such flowers reaps infinite blessings. If you think that the Tathagata meant for people to harm plants by cutting off their flowers, you are wrong. Okay, for those of you who don't know, okay, probably because you are not monastics, monks are not allowed to cut flowers, even as an offering on the altar. We are not allowed to cut flowers. So let's say if you want to hold a ceremony and there are no, we don't have any flowers, as monastics, we cannot go out to the garden and pluck flowers even as an offering to the Buddha. Okay, all right. Now, if you don't understand the principle behind flowers, you think, oh, but that doesn't make sense because it's an offering to the Buddha. But like I said, what Bodhidharma is trying to teach us is that the efficacy does not lie in the offering itself. The offering is just a symbol for our inner practice. Okay, now, all right, there you go. Bodhidharma says, those who observe the precepts don't injure any of the myriad life forms of heaven and earth. If you hurt something by mistake, you suffer for it. Actually, it should be if you hurt something by intention. I'm not sure. Maybe I okay, anyway. But those who intentionally break the precepts by injuring the living for the sake of future blessings suffer even more. Okay, so it was correct. How could they let would-be blessings turn into sorrows? Okay, what is an example of this? There are some people who during funerals or during celebrating the birth of a baby, or they they pray to certain deities asking for help. They offer meat, so they get involved in killing in the hopes of getting blessings, not understanding that in their mistaken efforts to try to get something, they are incurring unwholesome karma at the same time. So that's what it means. Now, what I have for you, okay, if you don't have any questions yet, is Shofa's commentary on the Sixth Petrarch Sutra. Why? Because there's an encounter in the Sixth Petrarch Sutra where a monk Actually, the monk was the second patriarch of China, but as this story was told, he wasn't the second patriarch yet, and it involves Bodhidharma as well. And this monk, when Bodhidharma met him, he was he was teaching the sutra so well. I think it was the Lotus Sutra that he taught, that heavenly flowers rain down from heaven. That's like the ultimate, ultimate sign that you are doing a good job lecturing the sutras. Okay, but still there was something wrong, despite heavenly flowers raining down. Okay, so now let's look at that. So Shufu said, Patriarch Bodhidharma went to Nanjing, where he listened to Dharma Master Shen Guang, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, explain the sutras. When Master Shen Guang spoke, the heavens rained fragrant blossoms and a golden petal lotus rose from the earth for him to sit upon. Now that's a big deal. Okay. However, only those with good roots who had opened the 5 eyes and the 6 spiritual penetrations were able to see that. Now, isn't this wonderful? So if you are just a regular person, you wouldn't see all these things happening. But if you had some kung fu or from a previous life, you had practiced well, then you will be able to see these heavenly blossoms. Excuse me. So after the lecture, Bodhidharma went to Rabbi Shen Guang and said, Dharma Master, what are you doing? He says, I am explaining sutras, like what I'm doing right now. Okay, I'm explaining sutras. Then Bodhidharma asked him, why are you explaining sutras? So he said, I am teaching people to end birth and death. So Bodhidharma said, oh, exactly how do you do that? In this sutra which you explain, the words are black and the paper is white. How does this teach people to end birth and death? Okay, now we all know that lecturing the sutras, reciting the sutras, trying to understand the sutras is very, very important. If not, the Buddha wouldn't have bothered, teaching us so many things, right? But what is Bodhidharma trying to get at? Basically what Bodhidharma is saying is, you are just making people understand the sutra. How is that going to end birth and death? So Dharma Master Shen Guang had nothing to say, despite his eloquence. So Shufu says, how did he teach people to end birth and death? So he fumed in silence. And that's a sign, the fuming part, because you would expect someone with skill, at least in understanding and being able to explain the sutras, to have some kung fu in their virtue, in being able to maintain their equanimity and their level of patience rather than giving in to emotions. Okay, all right. So anyone wants to volunteer? Why is Bodhidharma questioning Rabbi Shen Guang in that way? Anyone? No right or wrong answer? I'm going to wait a bit because I'm going to take some cough syrup. No one? Okay.
Well, I would like to try.
Yes, very good, Melinda.
Okay. To end birth and death cannot be from teaching. It must be from your own self. The cultivation, then only can end birth and death. I think so.
Okay, very good. 100 marks. 100 out of 100 to Melinda. Yeah. Because birth and death does not lie in understanding. We will come to that. Wait, did we already talk about Venerable Ananda last week in the Shurangama Sutra? We did, right? Or did not? We did, right? Yeah. We did that last week. Yeah. So 100 marks to Melinda. Because ending birth and death does not lie in our understanding. It begins with understanding, okay? But the understanding has to be translated into practice, okay? Understanding alone, if you spend like Venerable Ananda memorizing and understanding the sutras, that's only not even halfway there. It's just taken the first step. All right. Now let's see what did Dharma Master Shen Kuang do when he was questioned by Bodhidharma. So Shifu said, then even though heavenly maidens rained down flowers and the earth gave forth golden lotuses, Dharma Master Shen Kuang got angry. This is what I mean when this is what Shifu, so this is Shifu, okay? So Shifu is saying, this is what I mean when I say that the Buddha Dharma existed in China, but it was as if it was as if it were not there at all. When angry, Dharma Master Shen Kuang used his heavy iron beads to level opposition. In response to Bodhidharma's question, he reddened with anger and rage like a tidal wave smashing a mountain. That's his anger. As he whipped out his beads, he snapped, "You are slandering the Dharma." Okay, how ironic. And cracked Bodhidharma across the mouth, knocking loose 2 teeth. Okay, now, sometimes people tell me, okay, that monastics get upset when you ask them too many questions. And I have experienced that myself. Yeah. As a novice monk, we had classes because during my time we had, in the history of CDTB, we had the largest group of novices. I think we had maybe at least 11. I think it was 12 at one time or 13. So usually there's only 2 or 3 or maybe 4. But because we are so many, the monks decided to organize classes for us. And most of the monks are very traditional Chinese. And in the traditional, Chinese culture, it's more like I'm a bhikshu, and what I say you have to accept. Why? Because I'm the bhikshu. You don't question the bhikshu. But me and another monk, because we're trying to understand what's going on, sometimes we would ask questions, and I remember 2 monks, 2 monks in particular, took it very personally. It was as if I was questioning their authority instead of their understanding of the Dharma. Or for them, maybe it's the same thing. Yeah. But that is why, okay, I always ask if anyone has any questions, because I don't want you to experience the same thing as I did in trying to understand but being afraid to ask because you think that you might be offending the monk if the monk doesn't know or doesn't understand. If you ask me a question that I don't know or I don't understand, to me is actually a very good thing, because it shows that, oh, that's what I need to figure out. That's what I need to study. So you're actually doing me a favor, which is I always ask for a question. So don't be hesitant to ask anything, as long as it's on the Dharma. Okay, I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. As long as your intention is right, please ask. Even if you think it's a very difficult question or if it's an unfair question, no. Because, our titles are Dharma Masters, Dharma Masters, that's a big deal, and I have to try to live up to that. Okay, so this is the end of our story for the 6th Petrarch Sutra, at least in our slides. But what happened was, after he hit Bodhidharma left, and then a while later, it was time for Venerable Shen Kuang to die. And he went in front of Lord Yama. Or I might be wrong. Maybe the messenger, the ghost messenger came and said, you have to go with me now. The time of your death is up. And Venerable Shen Kuang expressed his surprise. He said, even I have to die? I lecture the sutra so well. Doesn't that mean anything? Then he said no. The answer was no. You still have to die. And Venerable Shen Kuang asked, he said, in this world, who has ended birth and death? And the answer was, well, that monk that you just assaulted, he has ended birth and death. So Venerable Shen Kuang said, if you let me go, okay, you let me leave, I will go and look for that monk and I will practice. Yeah. So if you want to know the rest of the story as told by Shifu, you have to go read the 6 Petrak Sutra yourself. Okay, but there are 2 versions published by BTTS, the Buddhist Text Translation Society. Shifu's account of this story is not in the latest one, which I believe is the 2009 edition, but is in the older one, the 2001. Okay, now, all right. Now we are going to look at 8 precepts and pure food. Okay, that's the next thing in the sutra. Okay, in this part of the sutra, the Buddha says for 7 days and 7 nights, they should observe the 8 precepts and eat pure food. Okay, so now, let's look at what, okay, maybe we'll explain what the 8 precepts are before we go to Bodhidharma's explanation. Okay, 8 precepts is just the 5 precepts, okay, and then you add on to no eating after noon. You can eat breakfast, no one's stopping you from eating breakfast, but after you eat lunch or a certain time, usually, technically the cutoff time is 12 p.m. After that, you don't eat anymore until the next day in the morning where you can eat breakfast again. Okay, so that's no eating after noon. The other one is refraining from entertainment, like singing, dancing, music, watching movies, scrolling on your phone, anything that distracts you. Distracts you from what? Your practice. Okay, and then the third one is no beautifying oneself. In other words, not making yourself attractive to others. So this includes not using perfumes, no makeup, no jewelry and accessories and all that. And actually that's combined with entertainment. Okay, decorating yourself and entertainment is one precept. And then the third one is lying on a high bed. You're not supposed to use a high luxurious bed. Okay, now my experience, and I've mentioned this many times before, my experience when as a layperson and when I became a monk is that when the 8 precepts are always being transmitted and people are teaching the 8 precepts, it becomes very the emphasis is on the rules of the precepts, what you can do, what you cannot do. Like it's like a legal document. That's the approach. So people will have questions like, oh, in the evening, can I drink orange juice? And then the answer will be, well, it depends. If the orange juice has pulp in it, then you cannot drink. But if it has been strained and there's no pulp, then you can. Then someone will say, can I drink soybean milk? And then the answer will be, oh, because it's from beans, you're not supposed, excuse me, you're not supposed to consume soybean milk or any bean-related milk after lunch. So it's endless. Like how high can the bed be, and then they go into precise measurements. I don't have the measurements with me. It's something like how many finger spans of the Buddha's finger. It's between your little finger and your thumb. You stretch it out, and then like 6 of that or something. What else? I can't go. I can't listen to music, so I can't go shopping for dinner for my family. So does that mean they have to go hungry? Yeah, a lot of questions regarding the form holding the form of the precepts, but never once did anyone explain, at least from the situations that I was in, did anyone explain the spirit of the precepts? So I once had this thought, okay, if it's as simple as, sleeping on a low bed, not eating afternoon, not decorating yourself, making yourself look attractive, and refraining from entertainment, and then holding the 5 precepts, does that mean that if, say, someone, say a beggar, and who happens to fulfill these conditions, does that mean they're holding the 8 precepts? Does that mean they get the benefits as well? Because their lifestyle is the same. Even they might be even more ascetic. They might not be sleeping on a bed at all. They might just sleep on the ground, maybe cardboard. They may not even eat breakfast or lunch if they are very poor, right? Does that mean that they get more benefits then? Right? So that's what happens when we hold on to the form. Now, the whole point of the 8 precepts is to give people, lay people who are very busy with their everyday schedule, is to give them the opportunity to live a monastic lifestyle. That's why usually the 8 precepts are taken for 24 hours. Or if you can live in the monastery for, say, a few days or a week, then it's very easy to follow the 8 precepts. You can, before the session, they will transmit the 8 precepts, and you can have the option of taking it for the whole duration of your stay. Oh my, excuse me. Hold on, just give me 1 second. So, the 8 precepts is meant to give lay people a taste of monastic life that's manageable in terms of time. So what the 8 precepts are meant to do is to create the conditions that are conducive for a meditative practice or for reciting the Buddha's name. The 8 precepts by itself is not going to do anything. Okay, you can hold the 8 precepts, but if you, like some lay people have told me, on those days when they observe the 8 precepts, they go home, they have nothing to do. They can't read the newspapers, they can't use their phone, they can't listen to music, they can't watch TV. So what do? They sleep. They sleep early. Why? Because there's nothing else to do. That's what happens when you get attached to the form and you don't understand the whole point of the 8 precepts. So the whole point of the 8 precepts is to create the right conditions for you to practice. That's all. The efficacy comes if you practice. Okay, if not, you are just planting wholesome karmic seeds that have to do with the 8 precepts, but you're not getting the benefits of what the 8 precepts are trying to do. All right. So if you understand that, then you can imagine someone who is a meditator. Okay, they are a lay person, but they like to meditate, and they haven't been able to meditate because they're just too busy. And then they say, okay, this Friday I'm going to meditate. This Friday I'm definitely going to meditate. I've been waiting this whole month for this Friday because I've cleared my schedule and I'm really looking forward to meditation. Now, for someone who understands the whole point of meditation, right? Even if they have not heard of the 8 precepts, do you think this person who is really looking forward to this precious time to practice, is he going to eat a lot during breakfast and eat a lot during lunch until he's so full, or he or she gets sleepy? No, because their priority is to be alert. They don't want to compromise or to affect whatever precious time they have to meditate. So if they're smart, okay, and if they have experience in meditation, they're not going to eat a lot. They're just going to eat until almost full. Shofu says 80%, and then drink some water, and that's it. So you don't create new feelings of discomfort. They will do that naturally. They don't need the precepts to tell them to do that. Would their thoughts be on entertainment? listening to some music or watching TV, exciting the mind, giving the mind a lot of things to think about before they sit. No, they will try to be as quiet as possible the whole day. Do you think they will get involved in arguments and fights? Because, if you fight with someone and you try to sit, your mind is not going to let you go. Your mind will constantly replay back your argument again and again and again because you cannot let go. So they will try to distance themselves away from all conflicts. They won't steal anything, they won't hurt anyone. They will naturally follow the 5 precepts. Right? And when it comes to on the precept on the high and luxurious bed, they will try their best not to fall asleep as they meditate. That's what the precept against a high luxurious bed means. Number one, actually there's there's more than one meaning, but the first one is people love to sleep. People love to feel comfortable. Okay? So, if you want to meditate, sleep is your number one enemy. All right? Usually when you try to meditate and you have a bit of skill, in the beginning you can feel really, really comfortable. And if you're not careful, you can fall asleep right there and then on the meditation cushion. So it's to remind yourself to keep your awareness awake, okay, and not to be too comfortable. That's number one. Number two, if you look at comfort, we spend our daily moments seeking comfort or running after discomfort. Like all of you right now, okay, you're all sitting in some form, you're all listening, and if you observe yourself, any moment you feel discomfort, you will move. Right? No one in their right minds will just sit still and bear discomfort. It's normal to move. Sometimes it's automatic and we don't realize it at all. Like even me right now, sitting down, I catch myself moving whenever I feel uncomfortable. But if you're trying to meditate and you're constantly moving, there is no way your mind can settle down. You will move yourself out of any samadhi that you can almost achieve. Yeah. So this the precept against a high bed, it talks about comfort, is to remind yourself, okay, I'm here to meditate. The discomfort will go away, just bear with it. Sleepiness will go away, just bear with it. If I have thoughts of sleepiness, that's my habit. Be patient and overcome the sleepiness, overcome the discomfort. Why? Because your meditation is more important. Okay, so that's the spirit of the 8 precepts. Okay, a lot of people hold the 8 precepts, or at least in my experience, when I was holding the 8 precepts last time, I hold it to the letter, but never to the spirit, because I never understood what the 8 precepts were. Okay, now let's look at what Bodhidharma says. Oh, the 8 precepts are also known as the 8 fasting precepts. That's why here in the sutra it says observe the 8 precepts and eat pure food. All right, they go together hand in hand. Now, pure food we always think is vegetarian, okay? Because there's, if you only look at the surface, the literal meaning, vegetarian food without the 5 panchen plants, okay? But Bodhidharma says it's useless if you do this unless you understand what it really means. To fast means to regulate your body and mind so that they are not distracted or disturbed. And to observe means to uphold the rules of discipline according to the Dharma. Okay? Now that we understand that 8 precepts are all about meditation, this makes a lot of sense, what Bodhidharma is saying. He says, fasting means guarding against the 6 attractions on the outside and the 3 poisons on the inside, and striving through contemplation to purify your body and mind. Now, what are the 6 attractions? Sight, sound, smells, taste, objects of touch, and thoughts. You all got that? Okay, very simple. It has to do with our 6 senses, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. what our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind do. The eyes go out to sights. The ears go out to sounds. For example, if you hear someone shouting your name, you will turn around and look at where the sound comes from. Nose for smells, tongues for taste, body for objects of touch or feelings, and mind for our thoughts. So, Bodhidharma says fasting means guarding the 6 attractions on the outside. When we talk about food, food is so coarse. Edible food is such a obvious coarse thing. So Bodhidharma is saying when you fast, you're actually fasting your senses. You're not letting the world distract you. So you're supposed that's what meditation is all about. And then inside, as you hear sounds, okay, as you're sitting on your cushion, either reciting the Buddha's name or counting your breathing or doing the chant method, the Huato method, you will find as your 6 senses encounter the 6 is corresponding 6 sense objects, what arises in you will be the 3 poisons of ignorance, greed, and hatred or anger. And that's what you need to work on. That's how you purify your body and mind. Then Bodhidharma expands. It says fasting for 5 kinds of food. It says first one, there's delight in the Dharma. This is the delight that comes from acting in accordance with the Dharma. For example, someone who really wants to meditate, and on that day they naturally accord with the 8 precepts. You don't need to tell them, you don't need to remind them the 8 precepts. They are natural conduct because of their intention pointing towards meditation, will naturally follow the conduct of the 8 precepts. Number 2, second is harmony in meditation. This is the harmony of body and mind that comes from seeing through subject and object. Okay, but you don't have number 1, you can't get to number 2. All right. Number 3 is invocation, the invocation of Buddhas with both your mouth and your mind. Anyone? What usually number 3 is called something else? Anyone know? I'm going to wait. This is an easy question. I'm going to wait until someone answers.
Mindfulness?
Yes. But also known as Pure Land. Pure Land. Number 3 is Pure Land. Okay, invocation of Buddhas. If you look at the Theravada suttas, it's called recollection or mindfulness. Okay, they will say recollection of the Buddha, and your mind will become pure through the dhyanas. In the Mahayana, it is invocation or mindfulness of the Buddha. So number 3 is the Pure Land method. Number 4 is resolution, the resolution to pursue virtue, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down. Number 5 is liberation, the liberation of your mind from worldly contamination. These 5 are the foods of fasting. Unless a person eats these 5 pure foods, he's wrong to think he's fasting. Okay, that's what Bodhidharma says. These 5 foods are the foods of fasting. And if you, if you are following the 8 precepts and then you're not eating these 5 pure foods, you're not doing it right. Okay, so he's not talking about eating pure vegetarian food without the 5 pancham plants. Anyone can do that. Anyone can just, now it's so easy to get vegetarian food and get cook yourself without the 5 pancham plants. It's such an easy thing to do. What's the big deal in eating pure vegetarian food? No, but these 5 pure foods, that's a big deal. Okay, so invocation, number 3 is mindfulness of the Buddha or Pure Land. All right, number 4, resolution, it means always maintaining the precepts. And number 5, liberation, it can also mean concentration or renunciation. That means you see through your attachments and you let go, or when you are really concentrated and your mind is not scattered from going out to the six sense objects. Number 5 can mean that as well. So Ron, you had a question. Ron, your microphone was
Yes,
unmuted.
I did. In the earlier slide, I was trying to figure it out myself, but I think it's best that I ask. It's under you had the slide where the sutra is for 7 days and 7 nights they should observe the 8 precepts and eat pure food. Why do they say for 7 days and 7 nights? What does that mean?
Well, it literally means 7 days and 7 nights.
Well, isn't that only 7 days and 7 nights? So after 7 days and 7 nights, we on the 8th day and the 8th night, you've already fulfilled the requirement for the 7 days and 7 nights. Is that what I interpret this to mean?
I mean, that's what the sutra says, and if you hold to the letter of the sutras, then I guess, okay, it depends on how far along the path you are. For someone who's new to Buddhism, if you explain to them the true meaning of all this, they may not appreciate it. Like if I had encountered what Bodhidharma taught in the beginning stages of my understanding of Buddhism, I may not have appreciated how deep it was, and I would just take it for granted. It was only after I found Buddhism to be a bit confusing for a long time, and then reading Bodhidharma and reflecting in my own practice, then it started to make sense. So for someone who's on the beginning of the path, to not even mention 7 days, 7 nights, even for 1 day and 1 night, is a huge undertaking for them because their habits are very strong. It's something new. And so for them, they may feel like after 1 day and 1 night, I just have to go back to my old habit. This is a lot. But it is because they take the first step that they can progress to maybe eventually reaching 7 days and 7 nights. It also depends on how badly they need the benefits. Because you are doing this on behalf of someone, how important is that person to you? Yeah, Ron, you were saying?
Interpreting the 7 days and 7 nights to mean, every day from now on when you start this. So, so that's why I asked. I mean, but I'm glad that you are explaining it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I would be very happy if someone were to look at this and say, I think this means forever and I'm going to do it forever. That would mean that the person is pretty down far the path. And that's a very good sign. But to do it less doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just, everything is step by step. Yeah. So I guess at the bare minimum is 7 days and 7 nights.
Pastor, I just want to clarify why 7 days. Because 7 days, is it something to do with our seventh conscious mind? Our to chase those the bad habit away.
Okay, according to Shufu, but I cannot find this. I have not come across this in any of the publications, or maybe it is, but I don't know where to find. But the reason why, like, all our sessions are always 7 days is because Shufu says 7 days is the minimum time you need to elicit a transformation. That's what Shufu said. Now, what does that really mean? You all have to do something for 7 days and see in yourself. But I think 3 days is too short for a practice to take hold, in terms of habits. So that's why at DRBA, most of our sessions are always 7 days. Yeah. I have slides that explain the meaning of 7, and we'll come to that in a future class. You just have to wait. But 7 is usually a very frequent number in Buddhism. Yeah, there's a significance behind the number 7, but not in terms of like doing it for 7 days and 7 nights. Yeah, all I have in terms of the length of time in 7 days and 7 nights is having heard that I'm not sure which senior disciple said, but apparently Shifu said that's the minimum time you need to have a transformation in the self. So whatever you do, okay, don't give up before 7 days. Or be like Ron. Assume 7 days, 7 nights is a metaphor for try to do it as long as you can. Okay? Now, I'm going to get back to the text. Any more questions? Okay, so that's it. This is the end of 8 precepts and pure food in our part of the sutra. Next will be on bathing. Okay, I have a lot to talk about bathing, but that will have to wait because we have run out of time. Yeah. Now, questions. Does anyone have any questions? Or anything to add or share?
Sorry, I'd like to ask about meditation. So,
Yes.
I understand that the fact that the Buddhism way of meditation is mainly to quiet the mind and progressing on to see the true self. Because I and another friend are actually into meditation. So, through that, he is a bit far-fetched for me. He's already entered to a state where he can actually see the true self. So I'm still some kind of stuck because I'm trying to still trying to find a way out to get out of this sleepiness, because every time I meditate I will always point to sleepiness. So
Sorry, can you say that again? Every time you meditate, you what?
I will always point to sleep. So because
Okay.
I'm always trying to find the object and the object to meditate, but I couldn't actually know what is the awareness to 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 know which are the object to actually to lock onto. So every time when I try to lock onto, I try to sometimes I lock onto sleepiness. I can actually find myself went into went to sleep, but I'm actually awake that I can actually see myself sleeping. So I'm not sure whether is that actually fall into the category of meditation. So just want to
Okay.
check with you.
Okay, your name on Zoom is just J and H, so I don't know who you are. Can you introduce yourself, please?
My name is JinHe, so I'm from Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah, so as I'm trying to progress on, I'm still stuck falling asleep when meditation. So because I'm not sure whether is it because I'm actually looking at the wrong thing or what.
Okay. When it comes to meditation, first of all, from the Churangama Sutra, from Shufu's teachings, the very important foundation is precepts. We always have to start with precepts. Let me show you. Were you with us last week? What's your name again?
No,
Jin
no.
Hui?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were not with us last week. Okay, so let me show you this. This is the Buddha's formula for people who want to meditate. Start with precepts. But precepts is more than, say, the monastic precepts. Because the Buddha mainly taught meditation to monastics, not to lay people.
Mhm.
Why? Because precepts here refers to character or virtue, and it includes the 4 Brahma Viharas, which is loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. Because without that, you can't enter the the pure states of dhyana. Without loving kindness, you can't even get into the first dhyana. And the Buddha explains it as a very natural progression. He says, if you have moral character, if you know how to treat people well, in other words, if you know how to treat all women as you want your mother or your sisters to be treated wherever they go, and you apply the same principle to all men, to all young people, all older people, if you can treat people like that, like your own family members, then naturally your mind will be free of remorse, and joy and gladness will spontaneously arise. This is cause and effect, the Buddha is explaining. So the Buddha outlined, it all starts from character. And precepts also include virtue. In other words, renunciation and putting a strong mind over desire or attachment. Okay, why is this important? Because if we don't resolve your feelings of desire and attachment, then when people meditate, they want something. They're looking for something. They have a goal behind their meditation. They want to achieve something. That goal or that wanting to achieve something is a very dangerous thing. Very, very dangerous. Why? Because it opens up the mind to trust itself, which is the exact opposite thing you want to happen when you meditate. When you meditate, it's because you don't. Why do we meditate? It's because we are not supposed to trust our mind, our conscious mind. The moment we start trusting our conscious mind, the Shurangama Sutra, the Buddha taught us the 50 skandha demon states. As our relationship with our skandhas change, we have 5 skandhas, which is our body and our mind. One skandha to do with the form, which is our body, and the physical world around us, and 4 skandhas to do with the mind and the way the mind perceives the world around us. As we meditate, our relationship with the skandha changes and things will happen. We see things, we imagine things, karmic seeds will arise, we can hear sutras being spoken, we can leave the body, things like that. And if we assume these states are real, then we fall into trouble and we get off the path. And the only way to deal with that is to have, for example, like the monastic precepts, to keep a very strong hand over attachment, over, number one, looking for states or looking for something to happen or expecting something to happen. Number 2 is when something does happen, attaching to it and thinking that, oh, my meditation is getting results. So there's a saying in Chan meditation, when you see the Buddha, slay the Buddha. When you see the demon, you slay the demon. Why? Because you're supposed to ignore anything that happens, any state, even sleepiness. There are ways to combat sleepiness. For example, keeping your eyes open or imagining the sun. The Buddha taught us about imagining a sunrise or a light. There are ways to do that, to combat sleepiness. As for sleepiness, there are ways in terms of breathing. You can breathe to the Tantian, which is you draw your stomach moves but not your chest or your shoulders. That way, as you progress and your mind becomes calmer and calmer and your breathing becomes shallower and shallower, you can maintain that breathing because it's a very efficient kind of breathing as compared to breathing through the chest, for example. And then in meditation, you always... Yes?
So should I keep my meditation object as on the Tantian or still to the nose, the breathing?
I'm not sure what object you use right now, There are usually in the beginning, the meditation topic is to calm the mind down. And most people will reach a point where the mind becomes calm, where your meditation object becomes too coarse. So for example, if you recite the Buddha's name, you will come to a point where you no longer want to recite with the mouth. You just want to recite quietly with the mind. Why? Because your mind has reached a deeper, quieter level. And then you will come to a point where even that becomes too much. It's too coarse, too disturbing for the mind. And then a time will be right when your mind is very calm and you can start investigating your own thoughts. So your mind becomes, the nature of your mind itself becomes the topic of your meditation. That's vipassana samatha, stopping and contemplating. And then when you have contemplated enough and you feel tired, your mind will naturally fall back into stopping, to to abide and regain its I wouldn't say strength, but to regain its focus. Because it is only when you're able to contemplate your mind itself that the wisdom comes forth. From there, the understanding comes forth. If all you're doing is just stopping the mind into quieter and quieter states, that's what we went into last week, the 9 stages of samadhi, where it's not going to be of any benefit at all. Yeah.
Because just now you mentioned about Dantian, so I thought I should actually put the focus on the Dantian.
You can, but it's going to, like I said, it's going to be too coarse after a while.
Okay.
Yeah, your mind will naturally want to let go of it, because provided you are doing it right and your mind becomes calmer and calmer, it is something that you will let go of. Okay, so
Okay. Thanks a lot.
sleepiness, I don't have any offhand. I can't I can't think of anything, but I can find out. Are you in the group, JinHe?
No, I just happened to saw this Zoom link from the WhatsApp that you all provided. So
Okay, so you're in the WhatsApp group.
yeah.
Okay, can you send me a message then in the WhatsApp group so I know? And
Okay.
and if I have any things about dealing with sleepiness, then I can share it with the group.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
I'll
but
send you a message later.
yeah, but I would suggest that before as you continue your meditative practice, to first read the 6 Petrarch Sutra and then to read the Shurangama Sutra.
Actually,
Because
I have read the Suramanga Sutra and also the importance of Suramanga Sutra and also the Dharma Sutra, because that is actually go hand in hand.
that is what?
I mean, because Dharma Sutra is to not be moved by anything, right? So it's sort of like I also understand that when we are doing meditation, we should not have any desire of what you want to achieve, because that is actually quite dangerous. It will lead to different kind of
Yeah, but saying that and experiencing a state are 2 very different things. The whole point for precepts and transforming lifestyle, especially for, say, a monastic lifestyle, is you need to come to the point where if someone puts a pile of gold in front of you, naturally your mind doesn't move. You know, if you see a naked person in front of you, naturally your mind doesn't move. That's the whole point of precepts. So that when you encounter states in your meditation, you are better equipped to handle yourself. Because let me tell you, when you do encounter a state, it's going to be something you have never encountered before. And there is no way, all right, even with years of holding precepts, there is no way your mind is not going to move. No way. You will get attached. The only question is, how long do you need to overcome your attachment so that the next time you sit, you're not thinking of the state anymore? That's it. It's something you have to learn. You have to proceed, you have to go through. And it's not easy at all. You know, if you have spoken to anyone who has ever encountered anything that's out of this world, you know, it's that's what it's like. The challenge is to, when you're sitting, it's fine because your mind is very quiet. That's why you can have those states, because your mind is quiet. The challenge is when your mad mind comes back and starts to think, oh, what just happened? Or did I see my true self? Oh, and starts to imagine what's going on. And then you can see the danger of getting attached. And then you will see the value in precepts and in transforming habits. Not just in, so precept is not just holding precepts or just talking about not getting attached. You actually have to deal with your own mind as it comes. It's a whole different thing. It's like reading about very spicy food, you know, and understanding that, oh, the blood vessels will do this, people will sweat and all that. And then actually eating it for the first time. Two very, very different things. Okay? Continue and send me a message on the WhatsApp group, and I will find some text that talks about how to combat sleepiness.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right? Okay. All right. So sorry to take up so much time, everyone. Let me do transference of merit. All right. I'm going to put my palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do. Just give me a moment. Okay, all right, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing in respect to the Realm Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone, Amitabha. We'll see you all next week.